Hey everybody, welcome to our Ergoversary video about the history of the Sigmanauts, where the Sigmanauts were, where they've been, where they're going perhaps in the future. And what better guests than all three of us, I think. We have Noah, who is here really near the beginning with the Sigmanauts. We have myself, who joined later on. And we have Mark, who's been the omnipotent power of the SIGs and the EF all the way through this whole ordeal. So I thought we could bring a good spectrum of people and experiences to this chat. How are you guys doing tonight?
Yeah, not doing too
well.
bad. Thanks for having us.
I just want to note that it is 2:15 a.m. for poor Mark Glasgow. So we really appreciate you taking a rug for the team.
Yeah, no problem. You've all done it plenty of times.
And we have Noah. No, it's been a while since you've been on video. This is a real treat.
It has been a while. Yeah, it's good to see you guys. Honestly, it's been a minute, but I'm excited to be here.
Was the last thing you were on? Was it a Hash It Out or was it a Pulse or something like that?
It must have been a Hash It Out, a CW.
I've been bugging
And
CW
Joe.
to get that show back up. I think we can work on him slowly about it. All right, let's start from the beginning.
The problem was.
Yeah, sorry, go for it.
Yeah, that's a tangent. I'm not.
Yeah, that's a tangent. We can't go down a tangent in the first 30 seconds, guys. All right, let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So, how were the Sigmanauts conceptualized? What was the thought about why do we need a group called the Sigmanauts? Which one of you was around at the beginning? Who started it? Let's start with those questions. Whichever one of you has the answers. Why don't we go for that?
I think we were both around at the beginning with Sigmanauts, and it kind of came about because we were all kind of organising that way informally anyway, and getting together and doing things in the chats. So I decided to give it a bit more structure. After we'd done a few ventures, tried to speak to some marketing firms, and they were all a bit mince by the sounds of it. And I realised we had a lot of great people in Ergo. So tried to kind of build the structure to incentivize that and get people involved that way. So they wouldn't be stuck trying to get answers or figuring out what they could do. They could just jump straight in and get stuck right in, basically.
No, what was your experience early on?
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like I think Mark just DM'd me one day and was like, "Hey, there's this new group. Come join it."
DM, typical Mark thing.
But to be honest, like in the beginning, there was just a bunch of people doing stuff already, and before the Sigmanauts were even really a thing. Like Mark said, he was trying to create some structure, and then it kind of evolved naturally. Like at that time, I was really, really heavily involved in the Sigmaverse, and I was doing a ton of stuff back then. And there were other people that were doing all sorts of stuff too, and it was kind of a way to create some cohesion around goals. With such an open ecosystem, everybody's kind of doing their own interests, and that can be great, but it can also result in kind of fractured prioritization of tasks. And the group was trying to sort of bring people together in a place where we can discuss more focused goals and ideas. And in the beginning it was super loose. And then eventually, I mean, you were there when we eventually made like the sort of founding documents and the goals of the group. And
I wasn't there. Are you talking to Mark?
No, I'm talking to you.
I don't think I was there yet. I came in 2022, maybe at the end of 2022, and I think you guys had all this docs.
That's what I'm saying. It was quite loose for a long time. And,
so you guys didn't have a DAO, but there was no DAO structure back then like we have now. What'd you guys do how'd you keep that community together and have some sort of coherence and some sort of structured voice come out from those kind of things? I mean, even now in chats, it's like we'll have like some idea that we need to execute. We'll put it in chat and somebody will, I'll say, hey guys, this is what I think. Somebody else will come in and say, this is what I think. And somebody else will come in and say, that's shit. Here's what I think. And that's where it stops. it just die, it can just die. So how do you guys, and that's where Padilla is nice. We're like, screw it, we're just going to put up a vote on Padilla. Whoever likes it votes for it. Whoever doesn't like it votes for it. And there's a discussion. I feel it would be much more difficult, and it was in the earlier days when I got there too. At least, how did you guys manage that back in the day to try to get some sort of consensus or some group ideas to come out there without a tool like Padilla?
I think it was maybe
You
just
didn't.
more. It was more tight knit. Tight knit. I think so. There was kind of less of those things happening. There was maybe one or two, but I don't really. Nothing really sticking out at me. Yeah, people just kind of done their own thing.
More
Other
like-minded
helped out.
people together, kind of thing.
I think so. Yeah, there's probably less of us. Maybe less people, but more active at the time. But yeah, it just kind of worked that way for a while. I think you maybe arrived in that kind of growing pain point of it a bit later, when those structures kind of became more necessary. But yeah, just kind of worked that for a while. Before that, we did have the Ergonauts group before that, but it was just kind of people just got added into it. There's no voting process or anything, and obviously new people were like, I don't want to add somebody in. This is like the core devs and Kushti's group, so we have to wait for them to do it, and they're not thinking about stuff like that. So it's just kind of this barrier that you couldn't get past. So it's to have a kind of way to get people into it.
So what was your initial kind of mission statement? You got to forgive me because I can't remember it. I know when we kind of kicked it back into gear at that point in 2023, perhaps, we had a lot of guys rewriting a mission statement, kind of the drive of what the SIGs are. What was your original intent back then? Did you have a proper mission statement popped up on the Sigmanauts handbook or the Ergonauts handbook?
Yeah, I think we had one that I drafted, and I think Cafe and maybe a couple other people helped out with. It's probably mostly the same as what we've got now, except maybe less refined, kind of same ideas though. Yeah.
And Noah, you just kind of got sucked in at the beginning.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, in the beginning, it really was very loose compared to now. Yeah, it really was just like taking this already existing community and just kind of putting a label on it, and then slowly over time trying to create incentive structures or trying to create some weekly meetings, just something to like create some cohesion. It was a very gradual process, if I'm remembering correctly. And it was kind of like, I think Mark kind of like pulling us by the necks
Yeah.
into the structure because it was so loose. But then over time, like eventually we got the multi-sig wallet going, and now with Paideia, it's like night and day. Like we can actually have like a DAO structure now rather than like a Discord group or a Telegram group. And yeah, it's come a long way. It's pretty cool.
So when you guys had the idea for this, or when you were loosely forming it, are there any other, I mean, I know it's hard to ask this question because you could ask me this question, I'd be like, fucked if I know. But did you take any like examples from other chains that you liked that are doing a great job at this kind of community organizing that's very loose? I mean, when I look at other chains, I see these organizations, there's always some sort of, paid leader or paid group or somebody that's like on the chair of some foundation that's like the owner of the chain that's running it, kind of thing. I don't, at least what I see, I don't see a group like this exist outside of Ergo that's just fully loosely people that come in, have like-minded, well, sometimes like-minded ideas and try to move on those. Did you guys see that in the beginning when you were trying to form this group, or did you feel like you guys were pioneers in this kind of aspect of trying to almost do something that's impossible?
I looked at quite a few of the other ambassador programs, took bits and pieces that I liked from it. I think the Link Marines was quite a successful.
Which one?
It wasn't really It was the Link Marine, so it's not actually a DAO. It's just people that support Link, but they were quite successful in the marketing and how they reached out to people and stuff.
Did they have any?
So, yeah.
Did they have any power over the chain themselves? Like, did they have any ability to enforce like change in the chain, or they just kind of were there to bring social awareness and marketing?
Yeah, I don't think it, not officially. Maybe at some point they did, but no, I just looked at the ways they were growing the community, giving people agency and stuff, and just took bits and pieces from the various ones that I liked, but nothing really inspired it directly. So I think so anyway.
And Noah, what did you feel when you joined this? Did you feel like you were joining to just kind of have a club to get together with guys and gal, or probably one gal? I don't even know. Do we have any gals in the SIGs at this point, guys? Or did you think, I'm going to join this group and we can actually enforce change in Ergo and steer it in the direction that we want with the power of this group?
In the beginning, prior to the Sigmanauts officially being a thing, it definitely felt like kind of a small club, just like tight-knit
A boys
group
club.
trying to just like no. We had Jenny.
That's right, you had Jenny. That's right. Oh, we should have brought Jenny on for this. Damn it. I should have buzzed her up. Damn it.
I'm not sure what she's up to these days. But yeah, it didn't feel like I was pretty ignorant of DAOs at the time. I didn't really know how they worked in other ecosystems. Like, I don't know if does Ethereum Classic have, like, I know they've got their group of people that are sort of keeping things alive over there, but
it's still it's kind of probably led by Bob Somerville, right? Or Somerville. What's Somerville? That kind of stuff.
Somerville.
Yeah, I think he's I think they found it part of their foundation.
Yeah,
I don't know the details, but I think they've got some sort of setup.
I feel like that'd be
the thing that usually. Sorry, the thing that I usually see, is on proof of work blockchains, there tends to be more grassroots community initiatives, because there's no emissions to pay for things like marketing or efforts to get the message out. Whereas on proof of stake, a lot of the time, there's a foundation that can pay for that stuff because they've got their staking rewards or whatever. There tends to be snowballing wealth in that way on proof of stake. Whereas with proof of work, it doesn't really work that way. You can
say money printer go burr. It's okay.
I think things tend to be a lot more community driven on proof of work. And that's not just on Ergo. Like, I know Raven Coin has a pretty dedicated community, or at least they did back in 2021. I've got no idea what they're doing today, but and like Alephium, they have their own community of dedicated people, and they've got their DAO. They're they have emissions, but anyway, yeah, it's very different social dynamic on proof of work compared to proof of stake and the bottom up kind of structure.
Yeah, that's the first time that I've thought of that. That's a very good point. And you do definitely see that where there's not a reward system or a payment system or some sort of catalyst of funds coming into some place to support it. These guys are on their own. Mm-hmm. It's a good old, you got to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Bootstrapping. No pun intended, guys. Get that kind of thing going. And that's one thing we suffer with. Even now we got, we've had some grants from the Ergo Foundation. We're working on trying to get revenue funds, through a mining DAO, the mining pool that we set up. We're designing an app with Four Eyes Consulting, which is MGPI and LGD, to try to get income by the use of that app. I'm hoping by some miracle that we can pick up the Sky Harbor contracts and take their open source front end and really buff it up with paying a dev to do it, and maybe take some UI fees off of that in the future. So we're really trying to position ourselves to where we can get some funding coming into the treasury. Because if there's one thing that I noticed that before we had funds in the treasury, people, I don't know if they took votes as serious as they do now when there's like 5,000 ergs attached to the vote and you put it up there. People have a much stronger opinion, it seems, when you bring in that kind of money, or you put the treasury up there and start getting it funded. People are like, oh shit, there's 30,000 erg in our treasury. We need to actually maybe pay attention a little bit. Not everybody, it doesn't work for everybody, but it does seem to get a little more people involved and a little more serious when you have that. So yeah, it'd be amazing if we could say, hey, 1% of every transaction fee on the entire blockchain comes to the Ergo Foundation treasury and the Sigmanauts treasury. That'd be amazing. But in that case, I wonder if you'd get, yeah, there's something to be said, I think, about actually physically working for a revenue stream and the appreciation that comes in with that, and then the carefulness you do when you have to blow it and you have to spend it on things, as opposed to just getting it dumped into your wallet, for free without any kind of work coming in. Now you've got me thinking, no, I'm not going to be able to go to bed tonight.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the big unknown of crypto in a way. It's like all of these chains, all of these dApps, all these projects, by and large, have been subsidized by printing, and there's only a small handful of projects that are actually profitable and running off of revenue. You can go on DeFi Llama and look at the fees versus revenue, or like fees earned versus costs to run whatever infrastructure on chain or whatever. And the vast majority are not profitable. And long term, that's kind of like where we need to move toward, for things to, actually be meaningful. Otherwise, we're kind of just like spinning our own wheels and hoping things work out. So yeah, the fee revenue thing is a really big concern, and it makes sense that Sigmanauts should be thinking about it too.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic now to be like,
whatever.
it'd be fantastic to be able to say to somebody, okay, you're going to run this section of this thing that's going to take 10 hours of your week. Here's, 100 ergs a week or 50 ergs a week. It'd be amazing to be able to support that kind of thing with the community. Otherwise, it's when you have time, and what do you say to somebody that's volunteering their time all the time and then they don't come through on a few things? Are you like, what the fuck, you should be working on this and doing that? No, you're like, well, I'm grateful for the things that you've done so far, and I'll catch you next week when you're ready to come back and do this. So this in this kind of community experience is a lot of kind of like the Ergo hash rate, as people complain about. Mark, so so my question for you, Mark, is what in your ideal world, and when you guys conceptualize the SIGs, what would be a successful Sigmanauts group to you in, let's say, by 2030? What would you see as successful for the Sigmanauts at that point?
I think that the idea that me and Joe discussed in chat originally was to have it originally be like multiple DAOs would spin off from it. So you'd maybe get a DAO that does audits, and an ecosystem project could pay them a certain amount. They'd provide the devs, do the audits, and get a badge and stuff. And essentially you'd have loads of different DAOs for different things you can think of, all doing their own little tasks. Ideally being funded through the chain for the users and people that need it, and just kind of all working autonomously. It's a dream, really.
So the funding would come from users voluntarily funding the chain, the DAOs?
Well, it depends on the DAO. For the one for the audit DAO, it would be projects paying for the audit. But there was loads of different ones. What was the other ones involved? So there's Ergo script review as well for kind of audits. A marketing DAO.
So the marketing DAO would be big enough to where projects would want to use them as a marketing tool and pay for it.
Yeah, they see that was the best way to get the word out on Ergo. These DAO has experience. They can do kind of sanity checks and check everything over, kind of vouch from the community to whatever extent is possible, really, down to the assumptions. But X, Y, and Z looks pretty good. we can't tell you some other stuff, but yeah, that kind of stuff would be ideal to have set up and running seamlessly.
So I feel like that's the hardest thing to do nowadays, or now in the SIGs, because we have about what 60 SIG cans and maybe 50, 60 Sigmanauts, or somewhere around there, maybe about 100 in total, blend between Sigmanauts and SIG cans. And you'd think with that many, you could say, okay, guys, let's sit down and let's say we need a group of people to just run the treasury. We need just a group of people to run the SIGs mining pool, just a group of people to, work on this auditing badge system that you mentioned. I find that extremely, extremely difficult even now. I can't imagine that. Was that like impossible back in the day when you first started out, when you were first organizing?
Well, sure, it would have been to do that kind of the stuff that requires people to dedicate a lot of time persistently. But in future, with this funds coming in, that's the incentive. If you can just get a couple of devs that you can ping, they'll do it for a set fee. They can share the workload. Should be easy enough to get people to sign up for that, I think.
So focus on a revenue stream that you can then support these subcommittees with actual payment of people. And go from there. Well, I think that's where we're headed, Glasgow. Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah, I think so. I think I can't remember, but somebody's actually started making the framework for a few of those DAOs. Maybe it was Caffeine, it was somebody else.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely going the right direction.
Yeah, the idea was that I think we took your idea and spun with it. It was like have like a gold, a silver, and a bronze kind of certification.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, so the project comes to us and says, hey, and we'd take a look at it, have the devs look at it, and we'd have like a point system where it'd say if you're doxed, it may have this, or if you're anonymous. There's actually a talk about that, whether that should be a plus or a minus, but if your smart contracts have been audited by what group or what people or how many people, at what stages, that would be another set of points. Where your stuff is hosted, if your stuff is open source, it would have maybe a different meaning of a badge to it as well, or a little add-on mark to the badge. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for that for sure. Because you see in chats all the time, right? Somebody comes in and is like, hey, Morphic, or hey, Kushti, can you please review my smart contract? And, they get to it when they can, but it would be nice to have a dedicated system to do that. Yeah.
Well, even now, you could just hire, was it 4 Eyes?
4 Eyes, yeah.
I was going to say that.
Like, back when we started it, there was like maybe 5-10 devs that could do stuff like that, and they couldn't do anything else because they were so busy with other things. It's a bit better now because we're getting more long-term devs that have been in the chain for a while and know what they're doing. Can I build that number up? Yeah, but back then it was pretty impossible.
So the big question, the question that we should end with, because I want Mark to get some sleep. How do we onboard the next? Let's say we have 100 users right now. How do we onboard the next 100 Sigmanauts? And how do we ensure that? So how do we start this nicely without getting too much drama? And having a group of diverse people and diverse ideas is very difficult, especially when it's all volunteer. You have people that have ideas that are completely contrary or opposite, or not aligned with other people's ideas. And your idea is that you're all supposed to work together and try to come up with, an idea that moves the SIGs forward, that moves the Ergo blockchain forward. So the question is, with all that in mind and what we've seen recently, since we've really tried to start pushing larger onboarding, we've removed the barrier for SIGCAN. It's essentially, you want to be a SIGCAN, somebody will bring you in. You can be a SIGCAN that day. And then you prove yourself and you want to become a voting Sigmanaut or be on a committee, then we put you in for a vote. But with that, we've noticed there's been, when's the last time you were in the Sigmanauts chat? Do you peek in once in a while now during your break?
Yeah, I check it all the time. I there's so many messages I don't keep up with all of it.
So it gets a little drama heated, guys. You have misunderstandings, you have language barriers, all that kind of stuff. Where somebody may be saying something and it's in English, but it's not their first language, so it comes off maybe a little strong or maybe a little sparse, and somebody takes it another way. So all those feelings, all those personalities, all those different mindsets in a group. I can imagine it's going to even get messier with the next 100 users. So how do we better prepare for that? How do we go out and get those 100 users and make sure that we're not going further down the path of people not getting along as well, or more diverse, more pockets and corners of groups that maybe split off and don't talk to each other, or that kind of thing? How do we make sure that doesn't happen, guys?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty complex question, but I think a lot of it at the moment could be attributed to growing pains and price down.
Price
You get a
down.
bit
That
more.
doesn't help, does it?
Yeah. If you get more structures in
Yeah.
place, more people using the DAO, more familiar with it, of what they can do, how they can help. Um, that's more clear. I think that will help as well. But yeah, I think a lot of the problems at the moment is just growing pains, really, and price down.
You said price down, and that reminds me of I was just in Miami last month, and we went to the Everglades, and it was about 3 or 4 weeks into, or maybe a week or two into the season that was supposed to be rainy, but it wasn't rainy yet. So, the channels are down, and you look in the channel, and there's like four alligators on top of each other, and there's literally a fish like every 1 foot, and they're bumping into each other all the time. So, when you said prices down, it really reminds me of that kind of ecosystem where the water's low, the resources are scarce, everybody's bumping into each other every 2 goddamn seconds, and it's pissing them off. So, and yeah, that's a tough one to get over. That's for sure. I think that's an individualistic thing that everybody needs to be kind of mindful of. What am I here for at this time? Am I here to bitch because the price is down, or did I join the SIGs to try to elicit change or facilitate change and push an ideal forward of what I want Ergo to be? So yeah, that gets to everybody, at one point or the other.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
tricky because I'll just say real quick, it's tricky because just the nature of incentive and people wanting to do things for a reward. When price is bad, people feel bad. But yeah, it's just like I'm so tired of that, honestly. Like, I've been more dormant on Sigmanaut stuff than I was last year. And a large reason for that was just fatigue from the the baseless speculation, price bad day after day. It's like, I don't know, there's more to talk about than the price checking Ergo day after day.
There
And
is. Sorry, go on.
I don't even know where I'm going with this. It's just like,
No, it's a
I
tough
think
it's a
I
tough
I
balance.
think it's I I think it's honestly, I think it's part of the growing pains of the chain itself due to the aggressive emission structure. I think coming out of, what is it, 2025 or 2026 is when the emissions completely taper off when we get into the hard fork emissions. I can't remember exactly what year, but yeah, it's just it's just been like a long tail of the 8 year emission curve, and people getting frustrated, and the people that are here for whatever reason they want to be here, they'll contribute however they want to. And I think it really is just growing pains, like Mark said.
I find I'm always at not an impasse, but a struggle between trying not to shame people for, when can price go up, and then also trying not to. I feel that if I say to somebody, if people are like, "What's wrong with the price? Why isn't the price going up?" And as a Sigmanaut, that happens in Sigmanaut group too. There are people in the group that's one of their main concerns still too. So I feel if I say, well, I mean, you may be here for the price, but I'm here for this reason, this reason. This is what I think Ergo could become. This is, what I want to see Ergo be used as. And I'm talking about like money for people whose paychecks are lower 3 weeks after they get the paycheck. Every couple of weeks, their paycheck's lower because of inflation in their country. I think a lot of people in crypto, especially the people that can afford to dump, $10,000 on a goddamn, dog with hat or dog with bat token, have no concept that of what the use case of crypto could possibly be, and the tools that are being made for it. So I find myself, torn between two places of still trying to want these people to engage for the most part, because they're here and they're utilizing the chain, whether they're speculating on it or not, and that might be the only reason. But at the same time, trying to push and educate that, Ergo at least, I don't know about other chains' policies or other chains' mission statements. Ergo at least is, here for different reasons, at least I feel, than just number go up. So I feel that stuff. Mark, you must get, you must experience that of, ever since the beginning, right? All the time, just trying to combat that.
Yes, it's kind of the nature of the game. I think part of the growing pains is because the community was so small back then. You get this big influx of users. The buys and the price is quite high, emissions low, so they end up losing money. But like, people can talk about price all day, but there's really not much you can say about it. It's a bit more complex and tying it to one thing, even though people like blaming it on one thing as soon as one thing annoys them.
They blame the algorithm, they blame marketing. Gosh,
I'm sure
the miners are dumping.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a little bit of all those things, of course, but at the same time, you can't.
Yeah.
Compared to the way the market and the trends, like nobody's doing that great. The difference between doing really great and bad is like a couple of dollars. So it's not like you're going to be at $20-$30. Like you'd be at maybe $3. But even then, like sometimes you get dips outside the trend and above the trend, and it's more that prices matter on a short time scale, because you can't really tell on that time scale. Anything can happen on that time scale. You need to look at a longer time scale, and just best is not to focus on it and just do what you think adds value.
Exactly.
Try and expand the chain that way, make it work, make it usable, and you make a usable chain with fun things on it that people can do, DeFi, gaming. I think that's the way it's going to spread. People see a game they play or a loan they want to take. They often won't even look at the chain, what the chain is. They just know they want to participate, and that's what it's going to bring in users and ultimately help the price.
And potentially those guys are the ones that stay too, as opposed to the speculators. And I've said over the past weeks that I've really had a kind of, I wasn't hardcore on, these memes are going to get people here. I was accepted that was a possibility, of course. And it was a method. But lately, I don't know if it's just maybe feeling winter coming on already. Even though summer just started, winter depression. But lately, I feel that that kind of, at least in the Sigmanauts, we get pushes to be like, hey guys, let's get this influencer to pitch us. And we look at the price and it's like $30,000. Well, we know that Max was paid $30,000 from Sneck, right? Or something like that. Maybe that's not well known, but somebody told me that, so I'm going with it. So, I mean, imagine, that's all of the SIG's treasury. Is that worth spending the entire SIG's treasury to get one influencer to be our buddy for a couple months, to bring in people that most likely are going to be speculating, right? And want the number to go up and are dumping at the first signs of price increase and then leaving, and they're not utilizing your chain anymore. So I constantly question myself, is that worth it? Is that temporary gain of an influx of users that are then going to leave and they're just there for speculation worth it?
I think
this is my personal opinion.
Yeah, go for it now.
My personal opinion is that speculators are not necessarily sticky, and people that come for memes are going to look for memes elsewhere as well. People go where profits are. I don't think that flash in the pan kind of way of allocating resources is the path to long-term growth, personally.
So how do we? Well, sorry, Mike, you go so I don't interrupt the flow. I've got another question after this.
I was going to say, yeah, it's not really. It's just that you could do that. Of course, you could do that and shell it for these influencers, but it's not sustainable in the long term. And as Noah said, yeah, like the vast majority of them won't stick around. I'm sure some will. You'll get some good people out of it, of course, but overall, you'll probably get more people shouting in chats.
Okay, so one thing I've been thinking about lately that I'm sure you guys have been thinking about since inception here is how do we make well, I guess it's a second ending question. With the Sigmanauts, how do we make tradition, digital DeFi and gaming and things that are, make good use of a chain and that has longevity? How do we make that sexy in a world today where Solana dips 20-30 bucks in price in one day or whatever it was, whatever percentage, and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, let's go to Cardano and it's meme season in Cardano now, let's move over there and start on. It's like that picture of the mom holding the kid and another kid drowning, and Solana's a drowning kid and Cardano's now the kid being held up kind of thing. So that's not healthy for an ecosystem, that's for sure. So how do we make the stuff that we do and we can do and what Ergo can provide for the world, and all sorts of people, how do we make that sexy in a time where sexiness is, what I just explained?
I think the type of hype that might help Ergo the best isn't the type of hype that's going towards Solana at the moment. It's more the kind of stuff that went to Bitcoin and GameStop. So it's kind of anti-authoritarian. People recognize it as a way to take back control, and it's truly open. So I think that's a narrative that could lead to a lot of hype eventually. Once there's a bit more stuff working, a bit more matured, people can use stuff that works. First time, yeah, I think that's the hype we want to attract.
So essentially, fighting against the systems that are built to give you a disadvantage, whereas Ergo, Bitcoin, those kind of things are built on the premise that you have your own control and you can, most likely have clear assumptions of what's on the chain, what's, who's holding on the chain, and what you can do with it.
Yeah, I think with CBDCs coming into play, that will kind of wake people up a bit, because I've noticed a lot of people that are anti-crypto. As soon as you mention CBDCs, then we should have an open source alternative at least. They kind of soften immediately. So I think once CBDCs come into play, and you can go, well, the government's got this, they're deploying it, we should have an alternative, and we don't really at the moment.
I'll say, I think part of the fundamental issue is that outside of Bitcoin and, a few flash in the pan meme hype runs, proof of work is really not in fashion right now in general. And it's pretty stagnant as far as innovation on proof of work itself, I would say. And I think
on other chains, you mean?
Lithos,
no, on other chains.
Yeah, no, I'm saying like big picture proof of work as a whole. But I was just gonna say, like, I think Lithos really represents like the next frontier of proof of work, and it's been in the back of my brain since it was announced, the idea from Cheese, I think, Cheese Enthusiast, yeah. And it really takes proof of work to the next level, to a point where I think it's kind of the best of both worlds, where it provides more power to miners, and it also introduces more DeFi capabilities for users. And whether it's sexy or not is a question of when it arrives on chain. But I think giving people the power and control, not having to rely on mining pools, I think that's a pretty attractive narrative for proof of work.
I think that's extremely sexy. I think, when we started the SIGs mining pool, I said to the whole group, I was like, guys, we may be a DAO, but at the end of the day, I'm running Stratum and I'm managing payments. So you guys are fucked if I,
Exactly.
say otherwise. So the best we can do right now is I shared the server keys and the wallet keys with a couple other people in the mining pool. That's the best we can do. But when Lithos comes along and can really decentralize, you can still have kind of pooled efforts with decentralization there. I mean, I think I think you're right. That's definitely a sexy thing that the SIGs need to get on and start hammering down as the next evolution of a fully decentralized system.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, guys. Any closing words for anybody? Do we want to invite anybody that's watching this to join the SIGs, or should we tell them fuck off?
Yeah, get them in.
So we have for a SIGCAN, guys, if you want to join the effort, anybody can become a SIGCAN. There's an application form on our website, sigmanauts.com, that Rustin, our lovely Rustin, will go through every once in a while and bring you on as a SIGCAN. Otherwise, if you're interested, just pop up and chat and say, hey, any Sigmanauts in here? I'd love to become a SIGCAN. I want to get started. We'll just bring you right into chat, as long as you're not like Sahar or Rero or somebody. You kind of can't be too much of an asshole. We don't want you to have a negative impact on the SIGs. You have to have some social awareness and some sort of social accountability there. So yeah, that's pretty much the only requirement there to be a SIGCAN. And then on top of that, after you are involved and you're pitching and you're doing stuff, you can help as little or as much as you want. But if you do help quite a bit and you want to take the next step to become a Sigmanaut, we put your DAO vote in. And thanks to Padilla, you automatically get a Sigmanauts token, so you can stake it and then vote on things, as well as form your own committees. You could come in and be like, you SIGs aren't doing enough for this thing. I want to start a committee and gather some people and do it and go from there. Like Sisyphus Push, just recently, he was a SIG around the time that I joined, or maybe a little before, and he took a little break. It's not uncommon for people to take breaks. And he came back in full force and was like, guys, we got to do something about the NFT scene, because he was very passionate about that. And sure enough, we spoke with Quokka. It's Quokka. We spoke with Quokka and learned that they were, they had these smart contracts that they needed to work on, but they also had a kind of a beta front end. So we learned a bunch of things through there. We set up a vote and we funded a bunch of that raffle that they put up to support that. So that's a kind of change that Sigmanauts can push through the ecosystem. You just got to kind of have the drive and desire to be around a little bit to see it through. But I just want to say, for you two, you guys have been at it a long time, and I have nothing but respect for both of you guys. It's tough for, I think, how long you guys have put up with this. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you hear the same questions every couple of weeks from different people. It does become tiring, I imagine. And but props to you guys for sticking to it. I think it shows the resilience of Ergo.
You're not tired?
Me? What are you talking about?
No, I will say, people should feel free to spend as much time as they're able to. You don't want to burn yourself out being involved. Yeah, I've been kind of on the back burner for a bit now, and it's good to just, take a break, reconnect with what you actually care about, why you're here, and then, come back stronger.
Totally agree. And I think that's the beauty of the decentralized system, right? Somebody else is there to pick up the slack when you put it down for a moment, and they're the spot for you to pick up the rope again when you come back. So it's really nice. Nobody's going to hate you for it. I mean, I like your don't get burnout advice, Noah. Meanwhile, it's 3 a.m. in Glasgow town.
Let's wrap it up.
That's what all right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. Happy birthday, Ergo. I sent Rero some money, 15 or 12 ergs. He was going to make a cake for us, so hopefully we see Rero's cake online. Thanks,
Sure.
everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah.